Do you see sketches of apps and websites like this and think to yourself, yeah, I'd like to do something like this, but where do I even start? Today I'll show you the basics of sketching interfaces so you can communicate your ideas quickly and impress your team. We will learn how to draw commonly used elements like buttons, cards, pop-ups, lists, and videos, and I assure you that you will be 100% able to do it even if you don't know how to draw. Let's start. When sketching interfaces, you can use various mediums, from physical ones like pen and paper like this, or a whiteboard and markers, to digital ones like your tablet and a pen like this, or an application like Excalidraw. And everything that we're going to learn today is applicable to any medium you choose. Today I'll be using Excalidraw. It is a design tool created specifically for those low-fidelity mockups. It has this really nice sketch-like aesthetic. To sketch an interface, you need to be able to draw a line, a rectangle, a circle, and add a short text, like this. If you don't feel comfortable sketching yet, just remember that all the interfaces are based on those 4 elements. So if you can create them, you can create any interface you want, and you're all set for success. To show you how to use those elements in practice, we will create a concept for a simple banking app. It will be a mobile app, and we will start with a dashboard screen like this one, where you can see all the products that are available for a user and a summary. We'll start by drawing our frame. Let's take a rectangle tool and let's start drawing our shape. So what we need to do here is to select the stroke width. I think the thinnest one will be fine. And take a look at stats for nerds. And you can see here that we have height of the element and width of the element. And if you can't see this element, because it's an additional toolbar, you can right click and go to stats for nerds and you can see it. And when you select an element, the element stats will also appear. And we want the width of, let's say, 370. And the height of around 700. I think this shape is fine. We don't need to be exact because it's a low fidelity sketch, but we want to catch the right proportions so that we design reasonably for a phone. Let's start with the top navigation. I will draw a line to just separate this area so that it's visible that it is a top navigation. The next element we want to add is a hamburger menu. So I'll draw 3 lines like this. I'll draw the line, select it, and drag it with Option and Shift, just to copy the element and drag. I will select those 3 lines and press Command G to just group them so that we can have this icon all together. On the right, I would like to draw a circle just to have our avatar, so user avatar. We can add a letter to it. So let's say A. I need to select it and move it closer to our circle. I'll change the size to medium, let's say, and it will be our avatar, a symbol for our avatar. And there's one more thing that I would like to add. It's an icon for notifications. And as you saw previously, for the hamburger icon, it's a very simple icon, so I can just draw it in Excalidraw. But notifications bell will be a little complicated to draw. So I can just mark it with our diamond shape. And don't worry about the details for now. And I can also add a dot here just to signalize that this is a notification icon and this is a dot that signalizes that there are some notifications. And to avoid seeing the line from the diamond icon, I will add the background to our dot. So I need to click here and select the white background. And now the line is covered. And in Excalidraw, you can also change the background color of your canvas. You can go here and select this light gray, blue, yellow, or you can go with simply white. Looking at the proportions here, I think we can make this icon slightly smaller so it doesn't stand out that much. And now we can move on to building our bottom navigation. I will select the line, just hold Option and Shift and drag copy it to the bottom. And what we want to have here are 3 tabs: Dashboard, Transactions, and History. And again, in this case, I will also mark the icons with the diamond shape. So this will be our first icon, second icon, and third icon. And I also want to add labels below the icon. So it will be dashboard. Let's work on the size here. Let's change it to small and see how it looks like. I think it looks okay. Maybe it should be slightly smaller even because it's our navigation label. Let's go with transactions, place it a little bit more to the center, and then history, and place it in the center of the icon. And since this is the dashboard screen, let's select this icon and make it look active. So let's change the background to black. I think this solid background is a little too much. It calls too much attention to the bottom of the screen right now. So in Excalidraw, you can have 3 types of fills. This solid one, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see better, the grid one, and the lines like this. And I think the grid one would be a good choice here. It gives the impression that it's selected, but at the same time, it doesn't call that much attention as the solid background. And it is important to remember that both in high fidelity and low fidelity, we need to pay attention to what is the most important on the screen, what is the hierarchy. And now we can move on to the main part of our screen, the dashboard screen. So it will be summary of all the products that a user has. And I would like to use cards to illustrate it. So one card per each type of product. So for example, for the accounts, for cards, etc. I'll take the rectangle tool and I draw a card. I think we can change the background here to just transparent. And I want the card to be around 150 width and height. Now I need to mark that we need an icon for a product, and it will not be a simple icon like an interface icon like this one or the diamond shape. I would like a small illustration, something like this. So I need to mark it slightly differently. I need to draw a rectangle here and draw an X within it, like this and like this. And I want to select it, Command G for grouping. And this is how we mark illustrations and visual elements that are a little bit more complicated than just simple interface icons like this one. And now let's add some text. Let's say current accounts. Let's move it to the center of our card, make it slightly smaller. In Excalibur, there are no font sizes except for the small, medium, large, but you can just basically scale it as if you were scaling a vector element. And let's add a sum of those accounts. So let's say 2,305 USD. And let's also center it. We can center it manually, of course. We don't have to be super exact in low fidelity, but we can also select, for example, those two elements, all the three elements, and center it vertically within this card using the alignment tools here. So I will center it vertically to the center. Let's zoom out, and now we can copy this card a couple of times. So let's say I want the second one here, maybe change the margin slightly, and one more row of cards and the third row of cards. Maybe we can spread them a little bit more vertically. And now I would like to change the labels, but I forgot to change the text alignment in my first card. So I'll quickly select all of the text that I have here and change the text align to center. So when I edit it, I don't have to realign them all over again. Let's go with savings and let's give it, let's say 11,300. And let's change this one to loans. And let's say that they have $200,153. It is important to change the content like this so the interface looks credible. And the next two cards are for cards and insurance. And I think we can remove the monetary value here. It is not really that useful. And let's move the label slightly to the bottom so that we have a better alignment here. And the last card, I would like to convert it to add new product call to action. So I will create the label add, remove the text here, remove our icon, and draw a simple plus button like this one. I'll group it, and to mark that this is a different type of area than a regular card, I can change the stroke style. And you can see here that we have this dashed or dotted one. I think the dotted one is great. And I'll change the color of it to something lighter so that the cards are more important than the add button. I can select the gray here and choose from different shades that they offer. I think the gray 4 will be the most optimal. And when I zoom out, we can see that we have our dashboard ready, and this last button is not calling that much attention as the other cards. Now let's move on to our next screen, the transaction history. Let's drag and select all of the elements that we have in the first screen, hold Option and Shift, and just copy to the next screen so that we have our top bar and our bottom bar. We can select all of the elements in the center and basically remove them. And let's change our active icon. We are no longer on the dashboard screen. Let's select the history icon and add background as we did previously. And let's select this crossed style. Let's start by giving this page a title. We can click T on our keyboard or select the type tool here at the top. Click on the canvas and say history. Now let's select this element again and let's style it a little bit better. Change the stroke style to black. And let's make it slightly larger. Let's say it's gonna be an M. You're still watching, so it means that this video is useful. Remember that you can give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos about UX design, sketching interfaces, and creativity. And for this screen, I would like to draw two icons, filters and search. And I think they are simple enough that we can actually draw them in Excalibur. So let's start with search. We will need a circle like this one. Let's just change the styles because these ones are just a mix of everything that we were using so far. So stroke style to just solid and no fill. And let's take a line tool and draw a little line here. Let's say 45 degrees and select both of the elements, Command G. Maybe we can make it slightly smaller and I think it's ready. And for filters, we can just draw 3 lines like this. The second one and the third one. And also select all of 3 of them and Command G for grouping. Let's align them a little bit better. And I think we're ready with our header. And I also would like to have some quick filters brought to the front so people don't have to go to the filters icon every single time. And I would like to have 2 drop downs. So let's draw a rectangle here. The first one like this. And then let's copy it just to see if we have a correct size. And I would like to filter by account and the timeline. So let's take the type tool and say all accounts. Let's change to our regular navigation tool. Select the text, move it around a little bit and change the size to small so that we have enough space. Option Shift to drag and copy. And let's say last 90 days. Let's move it slightly as well. And the only missing element is a drop-down chevron. So I will use the line tool, also drag it like this and draw another line like this. And then I can select both of those lines, Command G for grouping, and again drag to copy to the right. And I think we can move them slightly to the top so that we can save some space. And for the transaction, we will need a date of the transaction. So let's say today, 11:58. Let's change the alignment to left align for those elements here. We also need the information about who this transaction was for or from. So let's say we paid for Spotify subscription. And we also need the information about how much we paid. So it will be minus $24.99 USD, let's say. And let's move it slightly here. For this text, we need to align to the right so that when we are editing, it's always anchored to the right here. And we need to style our list item a little bit here. So let's say that for the date, we will use a slightly lighter color. So let's go with gray and 4 so that the other information stand out. And also for this number here, let's add some background. So let's draw a rectangle, just like this. Let's remove the stroke. And let's add background color like in this extremely light gray. And let's change the fill to solid. And now we can see that the rectangle covered the text. So let's right click and say send to back. And the last thing that we need is the line. Let's change the stroke to black and draw our line below. I think we can draw the line that doesn't touch the edges of the screen so that we have this separation for the list. And now we can copy this element a couple of times to create an actual list. So Option Shift and drag to copy just a couple of times just to fill out the screen. And now let's change the content of the transaction so it's more credible. I will speed this up for you. And for the last transaction, I would like us to actually receive a refund. So it will be, let's say, plus $52.99. Let's say that we bought something and we got a refund. And I would like to mark this transaction with a different background color. Let's say it will be this green so that there is a differentiation between the transactions that are taking away from the account and the one that are adding to the account. And it is really important to notice here that we need to use color very carefully in our low fidelity screens. We can't overuse it because it draws a lot of attention to a given element. So for example, if we were to color the dot in the notification icon, let's say red with red background, that will automatically be like the most important element on the screen because everything is black and white except for this one element. And it will even compete with our green label, although their label is bigger. So I will Command Z to undo. So please pay attention to it when you're working with colors in low fidelity design. Now I would love to show you how to draw a pop-up like this one with some form controls like radio buttons and checkboxes. And to do this, let's copy our transaction screen. Option Shift, drag and copy. And to create the backdrop, let's copy our main frame. So Command C, Command V, select both of them. Let's align them to the top and to the left. And let's select the top one and change the background to, let's say, gray. And we need to change the background type to, let's say, this crossed one. So now we are covering the content, but you can still see something behind the backdrop. And the next step is to create a pop-up. So let's take a rectangle tool. Let's draw a rectangle, select it, change the stroke to black and background to white. And we want a solid background so that we can create all the elements on top of it. Let's add the title, filters. Select this text, let's change it to medium and left align. And also we will need the close icon. So let's draw an X here. Something like this. We can, of course, edit it slightly and create a group to just group it. And the first thing will be the transaction types. So let's go with type tool. Type in transaction types, select the text, change to small, and we will go with all. Let's draw a radio button and let's drag and copy both of them. The next type will be credits and the last one will be debts. And we can work on alignment slightly, so maybe reduce the spacing so that we have a little bit more space around the whole section. and we can select all by default. So let's add background to our radio button. And here I'm fine with using solid background because it is an important choice, an important element on the screen. And then we'll go into even more advanced filters. Let's go with show. And then we will have a couple of categories that we can add checkboxes to. So let's remove the background because by default we will have no selection here. We can draw the text, and let's go with internal transfers. We can move the text a little bit further away from the checkbox. Let's drag and copy. Let's go with external transfers, and we will have two more: own transfers and card payments. And the last thing that we need here is the apply button and clear filters. So to create a button, we can draw a rectangle, and we can either add text separately or just double click inside of this rectangle and say apply, and then take text and go with clear filters as another option here. Let's move those items a little bit further from the content so that there is a visual separation. I think we can also change the size of the background slightly so it fits better with all the content. And now we have our filters pop-up ready. And the last screen that I would like us to create today is blog, mainly to show you how to mark a picture and a video. So let's select our history screen and let's drag and copy it. Let's remove all the items, all the content from the screen, including those two icons. And let's change the title to blog. And we also need to change the background for the history because this will be a screen that is not in the bottom navigation. And let's start with creating the list of articles. Let's say that the first article will have the illustration or some kind of picture. So to mark an illustration, a picture, any type of visual asset, we will draw a rectangle and go with our X here. And this is enough for marking it. And now let's add our title. Let's select the type tool. Let's say something for retirement. Click escape so that we have our text selected and we can change the font size to medium. Let's move it around slightly. And the next article, we have a video to represent it. Let's select both of those elements. Let's drag and copy. And to mark a video, I need to add the play icon. And I can do it by drawing a circle. And to lock the proportions while drawing a circle, you can hold Shift and just draw, and it will keep the proportions set. Let's select the circle, move it to the center, and add a background. So it covers the cross of the lines and it brings it to the top. And now we need a play icon, so it will be a triangle. Let's draw one line, then the second line, and then the third line. And this is enough to mark our video. And of course, let's change slightly our title to something different so that we have an authentically looking content. And when we zoom out, we can see that maybe there is a little bit more space needed here, and maybe even between the elements, we can move things around. To summarize, today we've marked 3 types of visual content. We have a simple photo or illustration like this one. We have a video like this one. Or we also have an icon, so like more complex icon like this one here. And now we're done. We have all of our mockups ready to go. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that after today's session, you feel confident enough to start sketching interfaces on your own. Here I've selected some other videos that you might like. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you over in the next one.